Worst TikTok mom loves to date killers in prison and makes daughters call them daddy. What kind of mother introduces her kids to convicted killers and makes them call these men daddy? Sounds unbelievable, right? But that's exactly what one TikTok mom has been doing, and she's proud of it. She's not just dating men behind bars. She's flaunting it online for millions to see. And the internet? Well, let's just say people are horrified. Meet the TikTok mom who loves prisoners. Meet the woman at the center of this mess. She's a mother, an active TikTok user, and a social media personality who regularly shares snippets of her life online. At first glance, her content seems like any other influencers. Videos about parenting, day-in-the-life vlogs, and the occasional motivational speech. But there's one thing that sets her apart: her love life. She's not looking for romance in the usual places, through dating apps, mutual friends, or social gatherings. Instead, she seeks out men who are locked away behind bars. And not just any inmates. She's specifically drawn to those convicted of violent crimes. Her social media pages are filled with posts defending her choices. According to her, these men are misunderstood, judged unfairly by the world, and deserving of love, just like anyone else. She argues that people shouldn't be defined by their past mistakes and believes in second chances. In video after video, she speaks about how society is too quick to condemn criminals, emphasizing that many of them have changed during their time behind bars. She documents everything: letters, phone calls, and video visits. Sometimes, she reads heartfelt messages from her prison boyfriends, sharing the deeply emotional words they sent her. Other times, she posts clips of herself getting ready for a prison visit, treating the occasion like a date. She even gushes about her inmate partners, talking about their charm, intelligence, and the ways they make her feel special. Naturally, her videos attract a wave of reactions. Some viewers are fascinated, treating her love life as a guilty pleasure to watch unfold. Others are horrified, warning her about the dangers of engaging with convicted criminals. She receives thousands of comments from people who believe she's being manipulated, that these inmates are using her for money, attention, or even a future escape plan. But she doesn't see it that way. She insists that she's in control, that she knows these men better than anyone else. She claims they aren't the monsters people assume they are, and that their crimes don't define them. In her eyes, they are just men who have made mistakes, some of whom were victims of their circumstances. This isn't just a passing fascination for her, it's a pattern. Over time, she's been involved with multiple inmates, sometimes even communicating with more than one at a time. Each time a relationship ends, whether because the man is released or because things simply don't work out, she moves on to the next. It's a cycle that has many questioning whether she's genuinely in love or if there's something deeper at play. Psychologists and relationship experts who have come across her story speculate that she may be experiencing hybristophilia, a psychological phenomenon where individuals are attracted to criminals, especially those who have committed violent acts. While not an official disorder, it's a well-documented pattern that has been seen in women who fall for high-profile criminals, including serial killers and murderers. Some believe it's a desire to fix or save these men, while others argue that it's about control, since an inmate can't cheat, lie, or leave as easily as a free man can. Despite the warnings, despite the criticism, she continues her search for love behind bars. With every new prison relationship, her following grows, fueling more discussions about whether she's simply making controversial choices for attention or if she truly believes in what she's doing. One thing is certain: her love life isn't just her business anymore. It's a full-blown internet spectacle, and the world is watching. Is she dating killers for clout? She proudly brags about writing letters to prisoners, falling in love with them, and planning their futures together. And when these men get out, she doesn't hesitate to bring them straight into her daughter's lives. She posts about it like it's completely normal. She calls these men her soulmates. She laughs off the backlash, but here's where things get worse. She forces her daughters to call them daddy. Her daughters, still young and impressionable, aren't just witnessing these relationships, they're being dragged into them. As she bounces from one prison romance to the next, her children are expected to adapt. They watch as their mother fawns over letters, giggles during prison phone calls, and gushes about men they've never met in person. But the most shocking part? She's not just sharing her love life online, she's making her daughters part of it. In several of her TikTok videos, you can hear her coaching them to call these convicted criminals daddy. Sometimes, she prompts them in a soft, coaxing tone, as if she's trying to normalize the situation. Other times, it's more forceful, an expectation rather than a choice. She tells her followers that these men are good people, that they love her and her daughters, and that there's nothing wrong with building a family this way. But the internet wasn't having it. People were already questioning her judgment. But this sent social media into a full-blown meltdown. The idea of children being made to accept convicted felons as father figures outraged viewers. Comments flooded in, with users expressing their disgust, concern, and outright disbelief. Many questioned whether this was even legal, whether Child Protective Services should step in, and what kind of emotional impact this could have on her daughters. "How could any mother do this?" one user commented. "These poor kids. They don't have a choice in this," another wrote. The backlash was relentless, with critics accusing her of putting her own desires above her children's well-being. Some called her selfish, others called her delusional, and many outright labeled her an unfit mother. Psychologists and child development experts weighed in, warning that exposing children to unstable relationships, especially with men who have histories of violence, could lead to long-term emotional damage. But despite the uproar, she doubled down. She dismissed the concerns, calling her critics judgmental and uninformed. She insisted that these men were loving, that they cared for her children in ways that their biological fathers never did. She argued that society was unfairly stigmatizing people who had served their time, and that she was simply giving them a chance at redemption. However, some viewers pointed out an unsettling pattern. With each new prison relationship, the same cycle repeated. A new daddy entered the picture. The daughters were expected to embrace him, and then, inevitably, the relationship would end, leaving the children to adjust once again. How many times had they been told to call a new man daddy? How many times had they been forced to emotionally invest in a stranger, only to have him disappear? And with her relentless search for love behind bars, how many more times would this happen? No matter how much she tried to justify it, one thing was clear. Her daughters weren't just innocent bystanders in this saga. They were casualties of it. The internet reacts and calls for action. Once her videos started gaining traction, the internet exploded. Some people were shocked, others were outraged. Many were horrified that a mother would willingly expose her children to convicted criminals, and the calls for Child Protective Services to step in grew louder by the day. The comment sections of her videos became a battleground. Concerned users begged her to think about her daughter's safety. "This isn't just about you," one person wrote. "Your kids deserve better." Others were more direct, accusing her of prioritizing internet clout over her children's well-being. "You're using your own kids for content," another user commented. "This is beyond irresponsible." The backlash wasn't just limited to TikTok. Her videos spread across other social media platforms, fueling discussions on Reddit, Twitter, and YouTube. Some creators made reaction videos dissecting her choices, while parenting experts and former inmates alike weighed in on the dangers of exposing children to men with violent pasts. People questioned why the system wasn't stepping in. Could Child Protective Services intervene? Were her daughters in danger? Was she neglectful or just incredibly naive? But instead of backing down, she doubled down. She fired back at critics, calling them judgmental and misinformed. According to her, the people attacking her didn't know what they were talking about. "You don't understand," she insisted in multiple response videos. She claimed that her relationships were based on trust, that her prison boyfriends were good men who had changed, and that her love life was nobody's business. She also pushed back against claims that she was harming her daughters. In one emotional TikTok, she stated, "My kids are happy. They have everything they need. Just because I choose to love someone society doesn't approve of doesn't mean I'm a bad mom." But the internet wasn't buying it. Viewers pointed out that happiness doesn't equal safety. Many reminded her that just because someone acts remorseful behind bars doesn't mean they've truly changed. Others argued that it wasn't about judgment, it was about common sense. The more she tried to defend herself, the worse it got. Some of her older videos resurfaced, showing inconsistencies in her claims. In one clip, she insisted that she always puts her kids first. But in another, she admitted to spending large amounts of money on prison calls, commissary deposits, and even legal fees for these men. Money that could have been used for her children. Her critics only grew louder. Some reported her to Child Protective Services. Others started digging into her past, looking for more details about her parenting and relationships. Even some of her own followers started questioning her choices, realizing that this wasn't just a personal preference, it was a dangerous pattern. But despite the pressure, despite the overwhelming backlash, she refused to change. Instead, she kept posting. More prison love stories, more defenses of her choices, more videos dragging her daughters into the narrative. And the internet? It kept watching, waiting, and wondering. How far will this go before something truly terrible happens? Why are some women obsessed with prisoners? Believe it or not, she's not alone. There's an entire community of women who actively seek out relationships with convicted criminals. From social media groups to prison pen pal websites, these women connect with inmates, forming emotional and even romantic bonds with men who have been convicted of violent crimes. Some write letters, others send money, and many develop serious relationships, even marrying men who may never be released. Psychologists call it hybristophilia, a condition where people are sexually or romantically attracted to violent offenders. It's been observed in women who fall for infamous criminals, from serial killers like Ted Bundy to lesser-known offenders serving life sentences. But why does it happen? For some, it's the thrill of danger. The idea that they are romantically involved with someone the world fears. Others believe these men are misunderstood, convinced that they see a side of them no one else does. Some are drawn to the idea of fixing or saving a broken man, believing they can help him become a better person. And then there's the issue of control. A man in prison can't cheat, leave, or reject them. He's dependent on them for emotional support, money, and communication with the outside world. To some women, this makes prison relationships feel safer than dating free men, even if the inmate has a history of violence. But when kids are involved, that's when it crosses the line. This isn't just about personal choices anymore. It's about the safety and well-being of her children. A child doesn't get to choose whether their mother falls in love with a man behind bars. They don't get a say in whether they're forced to call a stranger daddy, or whether their home life revolves around prison visits and collect calls. And with violent criminals, there's always a risk. Even if an inmate seems remorseful, there's no guarantee they've truly changed. If one of these men ever gets released, what happens then? Does he step into their lives as a father figure? Does he move into their home? And if the relationship turns sour, what kind of danger does that put the children in? The fascination with prison relationships might seem strange to outsiders, but the real issue isn't just about romance, it's about responsibility. And when a mother prioritizes her obsession over the safety of her own kids, the consequences can be devastating. What do you think? Now, I want to hear from you. Is this just bad parenting, or is it something far more dangerous? Should Child Protective Services step in, or is this simply an unconventional lifestyle choice that, while controversial, isn't necessarily illegal? Many people believe this goes beyond personal preference and crosses into outright neglect. After all, children rely on their parents to make safe and responsible decisions for them. When a mother willingly brings dangerous individuals into their lives, whether in person or emotionally, does that put the children at risk? Some argue that just because these men are behind bars doesn't mean they can't still exert influence or cause harm. And what happens if one of these relationships leads to an ex-convict being welcomed into their home? Others, however, see it differently. Some believe that as long as her children are physically safe and their basic needs are met, her love life is her own business. They argue that the outrage over her relationship stems from society's tendency to judge unconventional lifestyles harshly, especially when it comes to women and their choices. While most people might find it unsettling, does that mean it warrants legal intervention? And then there's the psychological side of things. Some experts believe that exposing children to a revolving door of father figures, especially ones with criminal pasts, can have lasting emotional consequences. Kids need stability, routine, and trustworthy adult role models. If they're being asked to form attachments to men who might never be released, or who may not have truly reformed, how does that shape their understanding of love, trust, and relationships? Could this pattern lead to confusion, emotional distress, or even long-term trauma? No matter where you stand on the issue, one thing is clear. This isn't just a personal matter anymore. The internet has turned it into a full-blown debate, with some people demanding intervention, and others arguing that outsiders have no right to police her personal life. But when children are involved, is it really just a personal decision? So, what do you think? Should CPS get involved, or is this just an extreme case of unconventional parenting? Do you think her kids will be okay in the long run, or is this a disaster waiting to happen? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you love deep dives into the internet's wildest and most shocking stories, don't forget to subscribe. I've got plenty more to cover, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Final thoughts. At the end of the day, everyone has the right to make their own choices. People can love whoever they want, live however they choose, and defend their decisions to the end. But when those choices start affecting innocent children, that's when the world takes notice. This isn't just about a woman who prefers dating inmates. It's about the consequences of involving her kids in those relationships. It's about how her choices could shape their future, their emotional well-being, and their sense of security. Children rely on their parents to protect them, to provide stability, and to put their needs first. When a mother repeatedly brings dangerous individuals, whether physically or emotionally, into her children's lives, is she truly keeping their best interests in mind? The internet has already made up its mind, with many people calling her behavior reckless, selfish, and even dangerous. Others argue that while her choices are questionable, she hasn't necessarily broken any laws. But where is the line between personal freedom and parental responsibility? And more importantly, when does concern turn into action? Many of her supporters argue that just because someone is in prison doesn't mean they are inherently bad or incapable of love. They claim that people deserve second chances, and that society shouldn't judge those who fall in love with inmates. They insist that her relationships are no one else's business, and that if her children are safe, there's no reason for outside interference. But critics believe that this situation is far from harmless. They point out that she isn't just quietly dating inmates, she is actively involving her daughters, making them call these men daddy, and using them as props in her videos. To many, this crosses a serious line. These aren't just any men. They are convicted criminals, many with violent pasts. Even if they appear to have changed, even if they express remorse, the risk is still there. Studies show that children exposed to unstable parental relationships often experience long-term emotional and psychological effects. Constantly introducing new father figures, especially those with troubling backgrounds, can create confusion, attachment issues, and even trauma. Some fear that her daughters may grow up thinking that these types of relationships are normal or acceptable, potentially repeating the cycle themselves in the future. And then there's the question of safety. While her prison boyfriends may be behind bars now, what happens if one of them gets released? Would she invite them into her home? Would her daughters be expected to treat them as family? Would she still insist that the internet is just overreacting? No one can predict the future, but many fear that this is a disaster waiting to happen. While she claims her children are happy, happiness doesn't always equal safety. And the question remains, if things go horribly wrong, will the warnings from concerned strangers have been enough, or will it be too late? No matter which side of the debate you're on, one thing is certain. This story has struck a nerve. People aren't just watching for entertainment. They're watching because they're genuinely concerned. And if her behavior continues, if she keeps pulling her daughters into this unsettling cycle, who knows what the outcome will be? Thanks for watching, and until next time.